Welcome, everybody. I'm happy to have you here today to listen to Sam Phelps of Tenet Financial Group. He is the Director of Development. Sam, welcome to the call.
Happy to be here, Lance. Thanks for having me.
Well, can you briefly introduce yourself and give everybody a little bit on your background?
Sure, absolutely. I guess you would say I'm a recovering banker. Been around small business for my entire career, but just most recently moved over to Tenet last year in the summer. For those that don't know, Tenet, we are a financial consulting firm. We specialize in helping folks get to their funding needs. And then we have a variety of products through the ROBS, or the rollover business startup, as well as helping people get SBA funding, equipment and leasing funding, and all that good stuff that gets rolled into one in the franchise world. My background, just basically been around small businesses, been on the other side of the table where I got to react and work with people like Tenet and the franchisors in this space. But it's fun being on this side where you have a little more freedom and are able to just, help people get funded and get help their dreams come true.
Mm-hmm. Well, and there's different kinds of loans. Like you said, you had the ROBS, which is your rollover. So some people, they don't have to, they can't, maybe they don't want a loan or they can't get a loan, but they can access their funds and you help them with that. And that's its own process. We were talking about before this, that some people go and they do all their own research online and get information on a website when they actually need to just come to you and have you tell them the laws and rules and how to do it. So it's great to have you on this call. Can you explain a little bit about how Tenet is different?
Absolutely. I think one of the things we were talking about, before we got started is first and foremost, we're a consulting firm. Some other businesses in just the whole funding space, not just limited to franchising, it's all about getting the deal, the sale. And while that's important, we want to make sure that we are generating returns for our shareholders, returns for that'll keep everybody paid and going forward. The most important thing is our client. And when you come to Tenet Financial, it starts with a conversation. As you alluded to, and I thought it was great, just the introduction, Lance, is each person's different. There's some people that absolutely they're not interested in a debt product. They want to be as averse to taking on debt as possible, and maybe based on their situation. So we do have a product for that. That's the rollovers business startup that allows you to access your retirement funds. But we also have great folks that help us and great funding partners that help you get the deal done if you want to explore the debt side of things. That ranges from SBA loans to individual signature loans to also equipment funding resources, whether that's leasing or a loan. And so really, it's kind of like going into, you've ever been to a sushi place and you pick out the different rolls you want. Sometimes you have that person that wants, that's what I'm going to get. And but then, you've got the people that want a little variety of things to put on their plate. And so a lot of times that's what we see is it's a combination of the two. Maybe they use their retirement as a down payment for an SBA loan and it allows them to stretch that dollar further for some of the bigger projects. But regardless, if you come to us, it starts with a conversation. You just know you're going to get something that fits your risk tolerance, helps you achieve your goals. But more importantly, you're going to get all of the resources and communications so you can make that decision that's best for you.
Right. Well, excellent. Well, can you tell us maybe what some of the pain points and challenges are that customers experience and that you help them with?
Sure. I think sometimes it's just getting started. They come from a corporate background or this is a life-changing moment. This will be their first business startup or business loan or just in general. The franchising world is a great resource for that because you have a proven model that has data, it has information, it allows you to kind of seamlessly take whatever traits you've added to your tool belt through the years and just slide in on something that makes it your own. Where we come in and try to alleviate the stress, alleviate those things that keep you up at night is to, go over what you're trying to accomplish. And again, just kind of tailor made a funding package that matches you. So, ask questions. I always encourage folks, there's no really a dumb question. If you haven't asked it, someone may have asked it and we have a good answer for you. Or if it's something new, we're learning every day as we have all these new franchises we work with, all these different types of projects. And so it's always good to be able to make sure we get those things checked off your list. And the most important thing is to make sure that you're in a position to be successful when you start your business.
And what would be a couple stories? There's always companies that when you help them, whether it's the franchisor, like a whole system or something, where you help them launch into something bigger. I mean, you've had a dramatic impact into a company's growth. Do you have any stories of that?
Sure. Most recently, one of the franchisors we work with, and I think it's a great kind of talking point because we deal with a lot of, the startup side, the new franchises, their first go around. But what happens when you want to go to unit number 2, unit number 3, unit number 4? I think talking through that, with our customers as well as the franchisor, what the expectations are to be successful. And the best thing is what hurdles are you going to have to hit? And a lot of it comes down to is having a plan to show that cash flow. Because guess what? If things are going and you're performing how you say you were going to on your pro formas, that second one's a whole lot more fun to go back and make a request to that banker because they're chomping at the bit to help you grow there. And so I think that's one of the things we try to concentrate on with our customers is, what's your ultimate goal here? And we get a lot of the serial entrepreneurs to where it's, I have the first one, but I'm really looking to grow to here, to here, to here in the next couple of years. So we try to answer the how on that. How do you get to that point?
Well, what would be like the process of working with your company?
The first step it would be to have a call with one of our sales consultants. They are very experienced in the industry, worked with a lot of different franchises. So you're not going to have something they probably haven't seen. So we start with introductory call. They're going to go through our products, similar to what we just discussed. They're going to hit the highs and lows, tell you what risks, walk you through the framework of how that would work for your project, and then engage with us. From there, one of our packagers is going to take over. They're going to get you set up to submit all your information for a full package to the bank. From there, the bank will do their review, and usually you would work with our packager. Their goal is to get your package submitted to the bank. We have a pre-qualification process that will let you know that you're hitting the metrics that the bank would like to see. Once the bank does their cursory review, they will go to a full underwrite on this. This is where they might ask you some questions that are particular to your project. A lot of the project and how you outline your business plan, your projections, those types of things are going to be driven from the FDD that the franchisor gives you. But now here's an opportunity for the bank to make sure they're understanding your project. One of the things that we do see a lot of times is just making sure you have enough working capital to get you through that startup phase. And so here's an opportunity for, working with us to make sure that we have everything set up so you can be successful. From there, it's usually closing. And closing is sometimes a little bit of a challenge because that's all the things that have to be done before your business is operational, whether that's executing a lease, getting your life insurance, all that paperwork filed with the state. One of the things we do as part of our ROBS program is you will get the white glove treatment start to finish as far as filing your articles of incorporation, your bylaws, your minutes, all those things you have to do. We help you take care of that. And from there, you close your loan and then hopefully just you're off and running on your business and everything's good.
Mm-hmm. Well, how long does that process typically take?
It's our ROBS program. It takes about 4 to 5 weeks to fully get all your corporate documents filed, get the money transferred from your existing retirement plan into your new plan that will invest into your corporation. The SBA can range. If it's a smaller loan, 150 and below, it usually takes 30 to 45 days. Whereas you get into the projects beyond that, a lot of that's dependent on where you are with your landlord, where you are if you've got a construction piece to that. And so that can take up to 75 days plus. And generally when those get a little bit elongated on the timeline, there's a specific reason that we know about, the franchisor knows about, and the bank knows about. And but we try to get ahead of those things. I always tell folks when they're going into it, get your life insurance started early, because that's a process in itself. And then if you haven't had conversations with your landlord or your contractor, let's get that rolling pretty quickly.
Yeah, because the bank, when they go into underwriting stuff, they're going to make sure that you have all the things needed to open this and operate it successfully and be able to go on day one. So, they don't want to give you money and then you can't get a permit. So these hassles that drag the loan out are things that you probably want to get on earlier. And, a great lending company will just walk you through that in advance. So you definitely want to listen and follow their checklists, and that will shortcut the process for you for sure.
I think you hit the nail on the head. Get ahead of it because it's going to come up later, and that's why banks ask for it before you get to sign your name on the dotted line. And by having that, in what we've seen sometimes in the past couple of years with cities, if they have a change to your plans or that project gets tweaked, it's better to address that up front instead of having to scramble for it later.
Mm-hmm. And I guess we're a little ahead of it, but my next question was, what can people do to speed up this process or shortcut some things? Because there are some things that you can do to make it happen at the shortest time frame possible.
Absolutely. We try to get ahead of that with you. So one of the things my packager is going to ask you for is, of course, your documentation. That includes your tax returns, 3 years for you personally and any businesses that you own 20% or more. Also, life insurance, life insurance, life insurance. If we talk to you and say, hey, this is going to be a loan that will require it, go ahead and get that started. And what that allows you to do is get into the queue. And if you need to adjust that amount, it's much easier to adjust it after you've had your, medical review, those types of things. But like, as you alluded to, Lance, once you get into a construction side of it, that's where things can get interesting. It's very common to have that in this world. And, some of these concepts are really cool, but, you go into a new city, they're going to have comments. And like you said, in order to start the construction process, you have to have those permits ready to be pulled or issued. And so get that stuff to your contractor, get that stuff to the city. And that way, if you're in the middle of underwriting and something changes, you can quickly make a change to that number or on that project, and you're not having to, do things 2 or 3 times. And so absolutely what Lance said, get ahead of those things and we'll help you there every step of the way.
It's funny because when you bring up life insurance, people are like, I need life insurance. And I'm like, yeah, the bank wants their money no matter what.
And when I was coming up as a banker, I had a older gentleman that had been in banking for a long time. And his comment always was, it's a good time too to assess with your family, where your assets are, where your estate is, and what would happen if something were to happen. And I think for the cost of most real life insurance for most people, it's a great insurance policy for your family. And that way, if something were to happen, there's a lot less stress, and you can not necessarily have to make a decision where you're not in control. If you do have that policy and it takes care of your loan, that allows your family to make the best decision for them with your business going forward.
Mm-hmm. Well, what are some common mistakes that you see? This can be borrowers, but it can also be franchisors. What are some of the biggest mistakes you kind of see happening out there?
I think it comes down to communication. And that's a very broad thing to say, but don't be afraid to ask a question if it's something that's very high on your list. the good franchisors, and I'd say most franchisors are going to make sure that they have everything answered for you, because it goes both ways in this world. They want you to be successful because you help the franchise grow. But at the same time, if it's something that you're hesitating on, it's better to talk about it at the beginning. You would hate to get something signed and have some remorse there and wish you'd ask questions. But I think we don't necessarily see it, but I think when folks ask me, I said, you need to go to your franchise representative and just talk through it with them. Because I think once you talk through it, you're going to realize, oh, I've got all these resources I can use. And so communicate, utilize their resources. And the same with the franchisors, the ones that we work with routinely, they're routinely picking our brains for, hey, what can we do here? What can we do there? And we try to be transparent of what we're seeing in the market, what the banks are asking for, what the funding options, how they are changing. And so everybody has the best interest to make sure that they're most up to date on what's going on in the market, what's going on in the world of funding, because as we've seen, particularly in this past year, it changes pretty quickly. And the ones that communicate the most have been the most beneficial in my book.
What are some examples of that communication that can be improved?
I think one thing we discuss with our franchisors is, the funding questions is get to us quickly and get to us at the beginning if there's something that's kind of in that gray area. What we have noticed that franchisors have really done after we've been in this rising rate environment this past year is make sure they're current with things. They are very good franchisors in their processes, but sometimes you need us to step in and say, hey, here's how the funding package is going to look like. So again, it's just getting to things early, making sure to answer questions, but the good ones do that. And then when they realize there's something they need to address, boy, do they jump on it fast. And it's good to see.
Well, are there any things that people can do to create even better results?
That is a good question.
This could be borrowers, it could be franchisors, it could be brokers.
I think when it comes down to getting into the franchise space, it's realized that it's kind of like a marriage. You're in this together. It works both ways. So if it's something that's going to be a newer industry for you, make sure you understand what goes into that. Some folks come into a situation, think it can be a passive type of investment. And I will tell you 9 times out of 10, the way these are set up, the success is a lot of times driven by how active you are in the business. And so being present, being there to handle the day to day, but also if it's a situation where you're purchasing an existing franchise or an existing business, ask the questions, make sure you understand really what it takes to be successful. And so where that kind of comes into play too with the new businesses, a lot of what we see franchisors do that's a great resource is put you in touch with other franchisees. Don't be afraid to ask them, hey, what would you have done differently, when you started? And they're going to have a list for you. And so I think that's really what I see that's very great to see is you can, in a space and in this world, is you can learn from others and sometimes avoid those mistakes by, listening to others that have become successful.
Mm-hmm. Well, Sam, that's incredible. I wanted to thank you again for being a resource in our industry and this call. And then for everybody who is listening and you want to learn more about Tenet, you can either go to the link by this video or go to www.franpro.com/Tenet, Tenet. All right. Any other comments, Sam?
No, it was a pleasure. It's always fun to talk about these things. And, we're here as a resource and really appreciate you having me on today. And thank you.
You bet.